Sometimes the world grows so quiet that even your own heartbeat sounds like an intruder. In such silence, every memory feels louder, every absence more profound, and, well, the emptiness becomes almost tangible. Arav was 17 when his world fell silent. After losing his father, who'd spent countless nights fixing old radios by the window while humming old songs, Arav's house turned into a museum of echoes where dust gathered on memories and silence grew thick enough to choke on. His mother, once the warm laughter that stitched the walls together, now stayed behind a closed door, curtains drawn like eyelids refusing the morning, while Arav drifted through the days like an unanchored boat, each morning starting with a sigh and ending with eyes that stayed open long after the stars went to sleep. On one restless afternoon, when the air in his room felt too heavy for his lungs to bear, he stepped outside for no reason at all, feet pulling him towards the edge of town where a forgotten lane hid beneath wild bushes, and half-remembered rumors of an old orchard no one bothered to visit anymore. The lane greeted him with the crunch of dry leaves, underfoot sunbeams slipping through branches like golden secrets, and at the end of it, beyond a rusty gate barely clinging to its hinges, he saw a garden that was more weeds than flowers, yet somehow alive with a stubborn beauty that made his heart ache in a way he didn't understand. There, bent over a patch of wildflowers, was an old man with hair like moonlight and hands that looked too gentle for this world, humming softly as if the garden were listening. When Arav stepped closer, the old man looked up, eyes bright like dawn breaking through fog, and asked in a voice that carried warmth Arav had forgotten could exist, "Lost something, boy?" And for a moment Arav wanted to laugh or cry, because the truth was he'd lost too much to answer. Instead, he shrugged, unsure of how to speak when words had turned to dust in his mouth. "Maybe you'll find it here." And without waiting, he went back to tending his stubborn little patch of color. Days turned into weeks as Arav found himself returning to the lane each evening, his feet moving before his mind could argue, his hands learning to pull weeds, plant seeds, and carry buckets of water under the sinking sun. Harry, that was the old man's name, told him stories about the orchard that used to bloom so bright people came from towns away just to breathe in the sweet air, how storms and neglect had stolen its glory. But he stayed anyway, tending what was left because, well, even dying things deserved a little care. In the hush between their small conversations, Arav started to speak again. At first only about the plants, then about the hollow house he went back to each night, about his father's radios that hadn't played a song since he died, about a mother whose eyes stayed closed even when they were open. Harry listened without fixing, without pity, only nodding as if every word was a seed finding soil. Sometimes they'd sit side by side on a rotting bench watching the sky set itself on fire with dusk while the garden hummed with crickets. And, you know, Arav realized how healing could look like hands in the dirt and sun on your back, not like grand gestures or sudden miracles. One evening, rain fell without warning, soaking the earth and the two of them with it, and Harry laughed, really laughed, throwing his head back so the drops hit his face like blessings. Arav, caught in the moment, felt something burst open in his chest, a soft crack that let the light in for the first time in so long. Take this home. Life needs reminders sometimes. Arav carried that pot through the lane, through the sleeping streets, up the stairs to his room, where he placed it beside his father's dusty radios. And for the first time in months, he opened the curtains and let the moonlight spill in. Slowly, the house felt less like a tomb. He cleaned his father's workbench, oiled the old radios, until one night static gave way to a crackling song that drifted through the hallway and made his mother pause at her door, eyes soft and watery, as if remembering how to feel. Arav didn't say anything, only turned the volume up until the music filled every silent corner. Mornings came with less dread, and evenings found him back at the lane where Hari taught him how to graft branches, how to trim the orchard's stubborn trees so they might, bloom again one day. In return, Araf brought him tea in cracked flasks and stories about the songs he'd coaxed from the old radios. Seasons shifted quietly. Summer's heat softened into monsoon's forgiving rain, and soon the orchard, once a graveyard for trees, sprouted fragile blossoms that clung to branches like shy dreams learning to stand. So, word of the flowers spread through the small town, and people who hadn't walked that lane in years found themselves drawn to it again, honestly surprised to see life where they'd expected only ruin. They brought saplings, seeds, old watering cans, and under Harry's gentle command and Araf's shy instructions, the abandoned orchard became a shared secret, a hidden miracle stitched together by hands that just refused to stop hoping. On a morning brushed with the first kiss of spring, Araf found Hari sitting beneath the oldest tree, eyes closed, smile soft, gone, as if he'd given every last piece of his hope to the earth he loved. Grief came again like an old wound tearing open, but this time Araf didn't hide in his room. Instead, he dug a small patch beneath that tree, planted new seeds where Hari had rested, and every day after, he and the townsfolk tended it until honestly wildflowers danced there year-round. The lane that had once led to nothing became a promise, a place where lost things found roots again, where a lonely boy learned that sometimes all you need is to walk down a forgotten road and trust that on the other side of silence there might just be someone humming to the flowers, waiting to remind you that broken things still bloom, that grief can make room for gardens, and that somewhere at the end of the lane there is always a light, waiting for you to find it.